Good morning, and welcome to our May Insights, featuring 5 of our nurses right here on our campus of Glacier Hills. I think you'll all agree that nurses play a large role in our lives, and over the last year, even a larger role, which is why we are honoring nurses on our campus this month for Nurses Week. We are very pleased to have Esther O'Day here with us today, who was a nurse educator during her career, and she's going to share a little bit more about Nurses Week with you and the history of it.
Thank you, Becky. I am Esther O'Day, and I have been at Glacier Hills for 2.5 years. In reference to my nursing background, I earned my basic nursing education in Rapid City, South Dakota, and much later, I earned graduate degrees at Wayne State University and Michigan State University. Today, we are here in recognition of National Nurses Week, which is celebrated each year from May 6th to May 12th. May 6th is designated as National Nurses Day, and May 12th recognizes the birth date of Florence Nightingale. This week-long celebration focuses on the contribution of nurses to the health of American citizens. An historical timeline of the establishment of National Nurses Week indicates that it was officially established in 1974 when President Nixon proclaimed National Nurses Week from May 6th to May 12th. This proclamation followed an announcement by the International Council of Nurses, which had proclaimed May 12th as International Nurse Day. It also followed support from Congress and from activists. In 1982, the American Nurses Association formally acknowledged May 6th as National Nurses Day, and a joint resolution from Congress designated May 6th as National Recognition Day, and May 6th is frequently called Nurses Day. 1996, the American Nurses Association named May 6th as National Registered Nurse Recognition Day. 1997, the American Nurses Association recognized May 8th as National Student Nurse Day. 2021 and to date, National Nurses Week has been celebrated annually from May 6th to May 12th. While May 6th is not an official holiday, it remains a day of recognition. During this past year, we have been confronted by COVID-19. This pandemic has presented new challenges to the healthcare system, and especially it has shown the important role of nurses in caring for these patients. In the newscasts, nurses are shown working in emergency rooms as well as in critical care areas, and we recognize their essential frontline work. We have also heard nurses' testimonies which reflect their dedication in caring for these patients. We have noted almost daily the pressure under which nurses are working with the commitment to provide care and comfort. So Nurses Week provides a formal opportunity to honor nursing and to recognize the impact nurses make on the healthcare system. In another focus, I am also recognizing some nurses from history who have made a difference in healthcare. Lillian Wald, in the 1890s, taught a class to immigrant women about in-home nursing and proper hygiene. She is the founder of Visiting Nurse Service and later helped establish the National Organization of Public Health Nursing. Mary Mahoney was the first African American woman to complete nurses training and become a registered nurse. She advocated for the rights of black women and founded the National Association of Colored Graduate Nurses in 1908. Clara Barton was educated as a teacher, and during the Civil War, she volunteered to nurse sick and wounded soldiers. She later founded the American Red Cross in 1881. Florence Nightingale may be the most well-known nurse in our history. She was a British citizen who was trained as a nurse in Germany, and it was her work in Turkey during the Crimean War when she recognized the poor sanitary and health conditions of the soldiers, and she set about to improve these conditions. She was often called the soldier's friend. She later founded the Nightingale School of Nursing in London and promoted proper hygiene and sanitary conditions in health care. Florence Nightingale is frequently called the founder of professional nursing.
Thank you, Esther. You have definitely lived up to your role as a nurse educator. Next, we're going to hear from our other nurses on our panel today, beginning with Joan, and then Liz, and then Norma, and then Kat. And we'd like each one of you to tell us a few things about yourself. Your name and your affiliation here at Glacier Hills, what you did as a nurse, and how and where you were educated. Not necessarily in that order, beginning with Joan.
Thank you. I'm Joan Jackson, and I'm a resident of the Manor on the 4th floor, and I've been here for 6 years. And it has been a very interesting and different experience every day. I was a public health nurse for the American National Red Cross. It's a program that the Red Cross does not have any longer. When I was there, I was assigned to disaster training and community help in a large region stretching from Maine to Texas. And I will say that at that time, 1961, I saw the worst poverty in a Texas oil field than I have ever seen, including in India, except I've never been to Calcutta. It was definitely shattering, really, because I wasn't a member of the community. I was a stranger, and as this woman, a woman with a sick baby that I'd been sent to see, and I said, well, you really should take her to the Well Baby Clinic. And the woman looked at me, gasped, and said, Madam, I can't go to the Well Baby Clinic. My baby's sick. So that there's a communication gap often in healthcare between terminology and what people understand you're doing, because it isn't always correct.
Hello, my name is Liz Messiter, and I live in the Meadows building, and we've been here for 4 years at present. I attended a 3-year nursing program at Queen of Angels School of Nursing in LA, California, graduating with a diploma in nursing. After, I married and moved to Ann Arbor and became a young faculty wife with a new baby, and 4 more children had arrived in soon. I attended Eastern Michigan for classes, and then the U of M part-time for completion of my BSN in 1975. When we first came to Ann Arbor, I worked part-time in med-surg at the old St. Joe's Hospital between pregnancies. After completion of my BSN, I worked part-time at Washtenaw Health Department in Medicaid screening for the WIC program, the Women, Infants, and Children food stamp program. After a year, I was hired part-time at Mott in pediatric cardiology, in pediatric walk-in clinic. I gradually then worked in all the PEDS outpatient clinics. In late 1977, I had the opportunity to work in PEDS cardiology clinic at Mott. The staff and patients grew as continuous progress in medical and surgical interventions occurred with the diagnosis of complex congenital heart disease and specific specialties in cardiology. I started part-time and gradually changed to full-time when my children were grown. I continued to be the only clinic nurse in addition to a pediatric nurse practitioner who saw patients along with the PEDS cardiology fellows and staff. After 22 years from the cardiology clinic, I retired to help my daughter who just delivered premature twin boys.
My name is Norma Mao. I've been a Glacier Hills resident for 12 years. I started nursing where I graduated from, which was the University of Michigan Hospital, which was much smaller than it is now, believe me. And we lived in Cousins Hall across from the nurses from the hospital. I'm a diploma nurse. I did not go on and further my education. I started work in the men's orthopedic and urology ward. The hospital floors had two wings, and one was the orthopedic, the other was the urology. And then I transferred to the medical tuberculosis floor, and I worked there. And then I transferred to the recovery room, which was quite a change. Going from there. I spent 20 years starting and raising a family. I went back into nursing in a doctor's office in Florida. Those were the days when you had nurses in doctor's office. And I tell the story that after being out for 20 years, the only medications I remembered was aspirin, penicillin, and streptomycin, and they didn't give streptomycin anymore. So he was an internist, and I got learning the meds, and so that was a big help for me. And then my husband was transferred to Kentucky, and what are the chances, but we lived off a dead-end lane off a narrow road in Kentucky, and there were only about 8 houses on the lane, and the house next to me was the nursing home director for the VA hospital in Lexington, and she needed a night nurse for 2 nights. And I said I was too old to work nights, but then came an opportunity to us to take a great trip. And my husband said we didn't have the money, so I said I figured out if I went back to work, we could make the money and take the trip.
Hi, I'm Kat Butler, and I've worked at Glacier Hills for the last 12 years. I've had a lot of opportunities here. This was actually my first nursing job. I started in the Karen Rehab Center. I then moved on to case management, MDS, and I am now the nurse manager and administrator for assisted living here at Glacier Hills. And I have been here for 12 years, and I look forward to a long-lasting career here at Glacier Hills. And I achieved my nursing degree through Schoolcraft College in Livonia here in Michigan, and I am currently furthering my nursing degree online through Excelsior College.
Next, we're going to hear from each of our nurses again. We're going to start with Kat this time, and maybe each of you could share with us a little fun story or an incident that you recall. Could be bad, could be good, hopefully good, through your career as a nurse so far. So Kat, let's hear from you first.
Okay, so this is actually a really funny story. I was working as an admissions nurse here at Glacier Hills, and it's really funny how a nursing uniform really sets you apart from everyone else. And on Fridays, we get to wear jeans. So on Friday, I wore my jeans, and so I didn't exactly look very much like a nurse. And I needed to complete an entire head-to-toe assessment on a brand new resident. And she was in memory care, and even though I had said, I am the nurse Kat, and I'm here to take a look at you, make sure everything's okay, and she was so shocked that I needed to look at her skin under her clothes. She said to me, "You want to look at my butt and you don't even work here." And I wore scrubs every day to work since then.
As a student, I dreaded the rotation to surgery. I was slow, and the OR nurses I observed moved fast. There was a left-handed surgeon there who was known to jab the nurses with the, if they didn't hand the hemostat to them with the needle, if they didn't hand the thermostat to him correctly. And sure enough, one day I got him. Well, he must have seen terror in my eyes, because he said, now, we are going to, with the first time I handed wrong, he said, now we're going to play a little game. He said, if you don't hand it to me correctly, I'll hand it back to you and you try again. As I said, he must have seen the terror in my eyes. Boy, I said my prayers that night of thanks.
Excuse me, late one evening in the Peds walk-in clinic, a young girl in respiratory distress had stopped breathing and due to an asthmatic attack, and she was choking. Only a staff doctor and me were present, so after a lot of oxygen therapy and suction and epinephrine, she survived the asthmatic attack. This was a confidence builder for me, showing that I was competent enough and could function in an emergency and able to function in later instances in my 22 years of pediatric cardiology experience.
I should go backwards and say a little about my education. I'm a graduate nurse with a bachelor's degree from Cornell University in New York City. It was, the medical school was there too, so I got to know a lot about the doctor's education at the same time. I went on from there to, as I said, work for the American National Red Cross when they had nurses on the staff by region, and my region was from Maine to Texas. And I worked on Hurricane Carla. And yesterday with my daughter, we looked up Hurricane Carla on her iPhone, and it turns out, and I had absolutely no idea that it was such a serious storm. They didn't have the technology and the science of storms then. They do now. But now they say it was the most intense tropical cyclone to hit landfall. It came from the Western Caribbean to the Gulf of Mexico and hit Texas at Galveston. I was assigned to Texas. And I had this knowledge, as far as I was concerned, it was a hurricane. That's quite a different storm than a cyclone. So I have really had an education and a better appreciation of what I experienced. I had no idea in my mind. It was just a hurricane, and I knew about hurricanes. I grew up on the East Coast in New England. We had lots of them. So it was eye-opening, and I would say the most important thing for a nurse is flexibility, because you have to change with the times and the science, etc., and circumstance.
Next, now beginning with Esther, we want to hear from each one of you about a little advice you might give to aspiring nurses, and would you do it all over again? So beginning with Esther.
After hearing a about some careers, the question is frequently asked, how does one become a nurse? And you may have noted from the comments here that it is a formal educational endeavor with a strong clinical base and an interest in and study of the sciences. Also, a desire to help others. Each level of nursing has its own requirements. The path to becoming a registered nurse may include being a certified nurse assistant, a licensed practical nurse, and then earning the baccalaureate in nursing and completing licensure as a registered nurse. A computer search will provide information on how to become a nurse, which will include program options, costs, science requirements, and admission criteria. In addition, it may be helpful to talk to someone who is a nurse. And also understanding that there are many options within the profession once you have achieved the registered nurse licensure. For example, career options may include working as a camp nurse, Red Cross nurse, home health care, hospice, and hospital nursing, and education, to name a few. I personally was involved in nursing education for most of my career as chair or dean of a baccalaureate program, and responsibilities included faculty employment, accreditation, program accreditation, accreditation reports, budget, student relationships, program development, to name a few.
As I said before, I think flexibility is the most important thing today in 2021 because the healthcare system is moving in all kinds of directions that I would never have imagined when I began my career.
Hi. A career in nursing has definitely changed in the years since the goal was bedside nursing without much technical knowledge and extensive studies. I learned that from my diploma in nursing to the BSN here. And so I really encourage anyone, and I have encouraged my granddaughter, who is going to be a physician's assistant, but now she is in hospital administration. So I would recommend the career of nursing to women and men who have a background in sciences, and they really love it. So yes, I would definitely say yes.
My advice is that you need to be patient, have patience, and you need to like people. I would suggest that if you're uncertain and not really quite sure that if there's an opportunity that you volunteer in a hospital and get some idea of what is going on. And then of course you need to choose your school and what's nearby and how much you can pay and so on and so forth, but you definitely need to have patience and enjoy people. And yes, I would do it again. It changed my entire life. I was a country girl from outside a small town, and coming to Ann Arbor and the University of Michigan opened up a whole new life for me.
My advice would be to expect the unexpected. I don't think anybody thought we'd be living through a pandemic right now, and you just have to adjust, evolve, and work hard. It's definitely one of the greatest accomplishments that I have. I'm proud to be a nurse. I'm proud I can help in the time of a pandemic, and I would absolutely do it all over again.
Well, thank you all very much for sharing your experiences as nurses and really inspiring others to consider or continue in their nursing experience. Happy Nurses Week to all of our nurses, our heroes here at Glacier Hills and other parts of the country and the world. I know how hard you're working, and we appreciate everything you're doing. Please stay tuned to the end after this video is over, because we have another portion of this to share with you so you can get to know all of the nurses and assistants on our campus. Thank you, and we hope to see you next month.
When you walk through a storm, hold your head up high and don't be afraid of the dark. At the end of the storm is a golden sky and the sweet silver song of a lark. Walk on through the wind, walk on through the rain, though your dreams be tossed and blown. Walk on with hope in your heart, and you'll never walk alone. You'll never walk alone. When you walk through a storm, hold your head up high and don't be afraid of the dark. At the end of the storm is a golden sky and the sweet